Hey everybody, welcome back to the Railroad, the Union Pacific Railroad Evanston subdivision in HO scale. My name is Daryl Cruz, owner and builder of the layout, and your host for part 2 of an ops video on Manifest Train MGRRV. In part 1, we were able to watch the train depart from Green River and head across Wyoming through West Vaco Control Point, past the West Vaco Mine and Plant, up to Granger, Wyoming, where there's a control point with a junction with the Pocatello sub. And then we went through Aspen Control Point, the Aspen tunnels, and then finally into the Evanston yard. We also saw a lot of switching there as the switchers here got cars ready for this train. This train is a train from Green River, Wyoming, to Roseville, California. And it has a stop at Evanston to swap out some cars. Total length of the train is about 34 cars and 3 locomotives. And we're going to be swapping out about 5 to 7 cars. The road engines and road crew do not take part in the switching operations of swapping out the cars. There is both a crew change and a consist change here at Evanston. So the road crew goes ahead and pulls the train, the consist, forward, and will back it into the engine facilities where it will be refueled and some routine maintenance conducted before it's able to take another train out in the days or day to come. These locomotives are, first of all, a Athearn SD70 ACE, the Heritage Unit, MKT, also known as the Katy. The MKT is actually what got me interested in the Union Pacific to begin with. Followed them quite a bit in Texas when we lived in Austin. The MKT as well as the Mopac, both of them were present in Austin, so got interested in those two lines. Also very interested in the Southern Pacific while living in Texas. This was a long time ago, back in the 80s. So how did I get interested in the Union Pacific? Well, who purchased all those locomotives, or all those railroads? Both the Mopac, actually the Mopac, the Southern Pacific, and the MKT are all part of the Union Pacific line. So that's where we are, Union Pacific all the way. So that's a SD70 ACE. The middle unit is another Athearn SD70 ACE, and this unit here, the trailing unit, is an SD70M. If you notice, I have no weathering done on any of the road stock. That's next on the agenda. For the railroad. As we go ahead and stop here at the engine facilities. Even though these are, all three are Athearns, I have ESU Sound 5 decoders installed in all my locomotives. These two are also Athearns MP15AC units with ESU decoders. I pretty much buy my Athearn locomotives as DCC ready, and then I put in an Athearn decoder in it. As we see a autorack train go by. Most of the autorack cars I have are by scale trains. I have a few from Atlas and a few from Walthers also. So these cars here that the switcher is pulling from the yard are cars that the switcher has already been working on. They had to go through the entire yard and look for these cars and get them all blocked together. Some of the preparation work that the road crew did here at Evanston while the train was traveling from Green River to Evanston. And now that the train is here, it's going ahead and pulling them out, and it's going to add it to the train. But of course, it also has to swap out the cars from the train. The cars to be dropped off here have been blocked at the head end of the train. So the crew does not have to fish for the cars. It just needs to pull them out and then add these cars from the yard, and they'll be ready to go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pull forward with these cars, get them set out. I really like this engine house here. It was by Walthers. I still need to do a lot of painting on it and weathering, obviously. It looks really good with the fueling facilities there, which is also by Walthers. It does block the view of some of the turnouts, but there is a step stool here for the yard crew to be able to look, can get high enough to soar so that they can look over the engine house. All right, we're going to go ahead and push these cars from the train into the yard. Usually swap out anywhere from 5 to 9 cars. I think there's 6 or 7 in this case. See another train go by. That's a Tier 4 Gevo by scale trains, an AC 4400 by scale trains. It looks like an Athearn Gevo. Pulling some loaded coal cars. Those GATX are auto floods by Rapido, and then the Union Pacific units are by Walthers. All right, so we go ahead and uncouple these, and then we'll put these cars from the yard onto the manifest train, and they'll be ready to go. It's not a long stop here at Evanston. Most of the time delays would be in getting into the yard and then getting out of the yard. especially during an op session. When I run solo here, it's usually pretty easy to do. A coal train's pretty long, 44 cars, and 4 locomotives. Got 3 at the head end and a DPU at the end. There you can see the switch lists for this train. Has a list of all the cars in the train, although they're not in order. And then at the bottom there, you can see the cars that are being added and the cars that are being dropped off. We're adding more than is being dropped off. So the train's getting a little bit longer. As I mentioned before, it has about 34 cars, which is about the maximum number of cars that we can have on track 1 in the Evanston yard and still be able to do switching on both ends of the yard. So with 34 cars, you won't foul both throats on the yard here at Evanston. All right, so I think we're coupling up to the train here. Now, it's kind of hard to uncouple it from there because you can't see it, although there is a step stool here which helps in seeing over the engine house, but also helps in uncoupling. But we'll go ahead and pull it out so we got a better view. You notice I do have the auto horn and auto bell on. Heard from some UP engineers that they may do that the first time as they're just starting out, but when they're working in the yard, they don't usually blow the horn and ring the bell all the time. All right, so we're going to switch road crew and also locomotives here. So we're starting up the new consist for this train. When we have op sessions, by the way, we do swap out the consist, but we don't switch out the actual operator. So the road crew change is just with the 1/87th sized crew. All right, so this consist is a scale trains AC 4400. These are the ones that I added the PTC antennas on top of the cab and added the yellow striping. Still have some touch-up paint to do on the cab there. So we have 2 of them. So 2 scale trains AC 4400s. And then the third unit is an Athearn ST70M. These have all been purchased at my friends at Lombard Hobbies. All the locomotives, cars, I would say about 80% of everything I purchased I've gotten through Lombard Hobbies. Even if they don't stock a particular item I need, I usually will go ahead and have them special order it, and they're usually able to get it quickly and get it to my door in pretty quick order, and always glad that I'm confident to have, the best price. And you notice I have the trailing light on here. When I run consist solo, without the train, I usually make sure I have the lights on the trailing unit. Don't want any of the little people to be run over. So safety first on this railroad. was really good to get some comments from UP engineers about different operating aspects. I definitely will probably not use the auto bell as much as I have been. They did say that switching units that are remote units, they have built into the system to automatically do the horn and bell. But if the crew's in the cab running the train, they generally don't do it except when they start. But then as they do the work, they don't use it. They will, from what I understand, they will use the horn and the bell when they're by any streets or if there's any people around. All right, so it looks like we have a permissive signal to go ahead and pull out of the yard. So there's about a 1/8 inch difference between the main line and secondary track, which the yard obviously will be. So the train has a little bit of an incline coming up out of the yard and onto the main line. And we're going about 15 miles per hour here as we head towards the UTLX repair facility where there is a crossing. Now we stay at 15 miles per hour until we get completely out of the yard. We're also going slow because we do have a red signal at the Wasatch control point. All right, so here we're at the Wasatch control point, and we have now received a permissive signal, red over flashing yellow, which means we have permission to proceed on the diverging route. And a flashing yellow means that not only do we have clearance through this control point, but it looks like we have clearance through the next one as well. As we pull out, that's the UTLX yard there, which got a little bit of a glimpse of it. There's the UTLX yard switcher. And as we go into the control point, the signal knocks down to red over red. And it looks like we'll be crossing over here. The Evanston sub is right-hand running from Green River all the way to the flyover, which is coming up in just a bit. The flyover is also known as Curvo. Here you can see the entire train coming through. See if we can catch up to the head of the train here as it goes down what's known as the Wasatch Grade. We're on Main 1, which is the original main line, built through here in 1869. Has a maximum grade of 1.7%, which is pretty steep, especially for modern trains. And long modern trains. I notice a little bit of braking going on there. It's because I put on the dynamic brakes, which slows the train down to 20 miles per hour, but doesn't bring it to a complete stop. Here's Curvo, by the way, where the train goes from right-hand running to left-hand running. So this is the original main line with the steep grade. UP uses this for downhill trains. The other main line is the modern main line built in 1916. And its maximum grade is 1.14, which is still pretty steep. This is the grade, the Wasatch grade, that generated all the big locomotives for the Union Pacific. The Challenger steam locomotives, the Big Boy steam locomotive, the turbines that they built, and then also the DD-44 or whatever, the DD locomotives. Forget what all the different numbers are for that one. All right, here we're at the bottom of the Wasatch Grade at Emory. The ethanol train is going up the grade. And now we're continuing, still going downhill, but not quite as steep of a grade. It's about a 1% grade from here on out. This is the Emory control point. From Emory to Wasatch, the two lines separate from each other and take different routes up the grade. And then at Emory, they come back together all the way to Ogden. And this is the Echo Canyon now that we're going through. Backdrops here were produced by pictures I took while out in Wyoming and Utah. We're in Utah, by the way. We cross into Utah just after the Wasatch control point. A lot more scenery in Utah than there is in Wyoming. I took the pictures myself for the backdrops and then used GIMP, G-I-M-P, photo editing software to put together the banners and then printed them out at Walgreens. Very efficient way of doing backdrops. Came out to about $1 a foot. Definitely a lot less expensive than getting commercial. And then also I had exactly the pictures I wanted because they're the pictures taken from the area that I'm modeling. Now here's our first crossing of the Weber River. We're transitioning now to the Weber River Canyon. You have the Echo Canyon and now the Weber River Canyon as we go through the control point and knock the green down to red. Different color rocks in the Weber River than in the Echo Canyon. So this is wholesome cement. And all of these roads and everything's are patterned after the prototype. All right, now we're going under Interstate 84 and crossing the Weber River once again at the Taggart Tunnels. So those pictures in the background are pictures I actually took at the Taggart Tunnels. Here we are at the other end of the tunnels. And now crossing the Weber River for a third time. I think on the prototype it crosses it about 5 times between Morgan and Emory. Here we're crossing an overpass and coming into Morgan. There are 2 overpasses in Morgan, one on each end of the town. That's the first one, and then this will be the actual town of Morgan. Still have a lot of details to add on the layout. A lot of buildings to put in here. There you can see the station. Now it looks like we have a signal to get into the yard, staging yard, and we go past the second overpass at Morgan. And this brings us to the end of the scenic portion here, whereas the locomotives and train are going to head into the staging yard. Part 1 took about a half an hour, and this part 2 is going to be about a half hour also. So this entire train takes about an hour to complete. Maybe a little bit longer during an op session. Probably we'll have a few more times where you'll be waiting. Mostly when you're waiting to get into the yard and waiting to get out of the yard. But basically an hour of fun. We have 3 manifest trains during an op session that stop at Evanston and swap out cars. All right, that brings us to the end of this video. Stay tuned for some more videos. I'm going to be posting about the ESU system I've been installing. But really appreciate you watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everyone. And I hope you have a great week. Take care, everybody.